So maybe we can start with, can you give me a bit of an introduction to yourself, Dan? Where do you come from? Where are you now? How did you get to data?
Sure. So my name is actually Dat, not Dan.
Dat, sorry.
So like data without A. Okay. So it's always a chill like interaction. So I'm currently heading AI at Axel Springer. So Axel Springer, if you're probably all aware, is a big media company. And since this year, we're also not only a media company anymore, but also a tech company, right? So that's why the AI topic is actually quite good for Axel Springer. And we're kind of a new unit, so it's called Axel Springer AI, and we are part of Axel Springer Ideas Engineering, which is like the innovation unit of Axel Springer. And what we do is we want to democratize AI, right? Because it's a very, I would say, fuzzy topic for many German companies, and especially for a company like Axel Springer, where we did a really good job on becoming digital, but we want to take the next step, right? And this is actually to become an AI-first driven company in some way.
Okay, maybe before we delve deeper, and we have a few things to show. Can you explain the audience what your view is on, like, I just had a talk about data science, and then we have machine learning, and then we have deep learning, and then we have AI, and it seems to be very complicated. Can you give people a more easy idea of what is what?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a very famous quote from Matt Verdejo. He's a product manager at Microsoft, so I believe so now. He said, like, if it's written in PowerPoint, it's called AI, and if it's written in Python, it's called machine learning, right? So, but of course, if you look at the normal definition, AI overspans like the general definition of like trying to solve general intelligence. So basically, you want to create an algorithm that basically act like a human, right? But of course, we're very, very far from being like super intelligence. What we usually do is more machine learning, right? Machine learning is trying to find an algorithm that gets a pattern out of data, so it learns from data. And deep learning is like a special technique from machine learning, right? And data science, I think data science is something, it kind of emerged out of data mining, because we all heard from because in the US everyone called himself data science, and they just earn much more money. So no,
it sounds a lot cooler, data science.
Yeah, right, who wants to be a data analyst or product analyst, right? So a scientist is like, oh wow, sounds amazing.
Doesn't really work.
Yeah. And now in Germany, I think there's an inflation of titles. So everyone, is calling themselves data scientists because they believe you're probably doing more cool work. And also, even companies, they know about the problem that they are not able to get good data analysts anymore, or BI analysts. So they also rebrand as a data scientist. So that's why it's become a little more blurry in terms of like job titles.
Maybe we can actually go to a few examples, because you brought a few examples. Yeah. So I'll go through here and then actually see it there also. Yeah. So for those interested, Axel Springer, easy to find, especially the AI team. Yeah. URL is there. You build a headline generator.
Yeah, this is one of the current projects that we're doing. So this is, as you can see, the input data is an article from Welt, and then you have the original head title, and then we have the predicted headline from that. The reason why we would like to do this is, for example, I mean, we're not going to replace any journalism in the future, right? So we still have journalists who write the articles, but we have other problems, for example, writing good SEO titles, right? So for example, if you're a media company and you have, you want to list it or be searched on Google, it's actually quite better to have a good SEO title. But the problem is, in a digital world, or in the world that we live now, you have so many information and less time, and you have a lot of work, and it's good to have something that gives you kind of like a help, right? Hey, this is a good SEO title, just take it immediately, and it's better than nothing. Because at the moment, I think only 10% of our articles are actually having a title.
Okay. So are you already trying that out?
Well, this is open source, so we are trying this out already, and we have a project together with our colleagues from Spring Media, which is the tech company behind all the news media international, and basically we are using state-of-the-art technologies for that. So it's this thing called BERT, so from the Sesame Street, and basically it's doing well, and we're trying out and see how it works. So
nice. Next one is image, the duplicator.
Yeah. So this is a recent project that we worked together with Idealo, with my old team. Basically, it's for looking fast, exact and near duplicates. And the problem is here, for example, at Idealo, at a hotel price comparison or in the product comparison, you have a lot of duplicate images, right? And they have like 300 million products, and 300 million products, you don't have only 1 or 2 images, but there's a couple of images, right? And of course, I mean, it's a simple problem for a human. If you look at the 2 images, they look the same, you know, you're probably gonna identify it, right? But if you need to do it like, you know, on 300 million products times the number of images you have, you know, a machine is much better at doing that. And we open source it. It was featured on Hacker News. Yeah, and we were training also on Reddit, so it was a very successful product, open source.
I can fully agree. Nice point with the open source part. Yeah. You mentioned deepfakes, which is an interesting subject just in itself.
Yeah, this is something. If you're not aware of this guy, so this is a CEO of Axel Springer. So basically, the question is he real or not? I can leave it to the audience. But yeah, I mean, this guy, like, this is generated by a machine. And basically, we actually have a plan for a museum that we want to kind of make people, like dead people alive, right? And this is kind of an intermediate step for us to generate people, prominent people, right? But the end goal is in the future to generate those stuff, but also trying to find funding to also detect those stuff. Because, I mean, deepfake has been around for a long, long time. You know, in the past, you could just go in Photoshop and, you know, basically fake images as well, right, and fake people. But now, you as a normal private person can take a computer at home, run an algorithm through that, and generate a deepfake by yourself. So this is actually the crazy thing.
Do you think deepfake videos based on AI are already out there, and we're fooled already, or are we still fine that we're not so easily fooled yet?
I think it's not so easily fooled at the moment. So if you even look at like real good deepfakes, there's still a lot of artifacts in there, and you will recognize it. Even if you, for example, look at, it's not only videos, but it's also text and voice, right? So if you look at text, like OpenAI, this is like the AI unit from Elon Musk who you know, do all this AI cool stuff actually, and they produce this OpenAI GP2, which can generate text, like you know. And I just tried it out. Like, if you want to try it out, just go to talktotransformer.com, and then basically you type in something, and then it will generate a text out of it. But if you read through it, like grammatically, syntactically, it's very good, but it's still like, you know, it's not very good. Like facts, in terms of facts.
It sounds weird.
Yeah.
In your head, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So you already talked a bit about the Idealo part and the comparison part, which was something we wanted to touch upon.
Yeah.
So what was the problem you had at Idealo where AI and stuff really was important?
So if you look at the numbers here, so who actually of you actually know Idealo? Okay, who actually knows that they have also hotel price comparison? Okay, this is always the similar thing. That no one knows that we have also hotel price comparison, but they do. But if you look at the numbers, Idealo has like 2 million recommendations, right? And if you, like the same thing for products. Like products, they have 300 million, but you know, not only one product has only one image, but they have several images, right? A lot of images. And this 2 million recommendation, we have 300 million images. And if you divide it by the recommendation, you have 133 images per recommendation. So it's a lot, right? So if you think about that. And if you go one slide further, so if you think about traveling, right? So when you travel, you actually have 2 things that you would look at. You would look at the price, right? Because price, especially Germans, because Germans are very price sensitive. And then, of course, the image, right? The first image. Especially, I always I always call my generation the Tinder generation. You know why? Because everything when you swipe, right, it's always the first image that counts. You know, it's like very fast decision. When you go on the internet, everything has to be fast, right? If you don't make a good impression, first impression, the second counts, right? So you will leave it. And if you look at this example, like the first example, if you go further with that, this is an example from Berlin. I think this is not the best example, right, that you would look at, because you would look at this place like, okay, I mean, maybe for guys it would be cool, but like a usual person, you know, look at that, okay, what's this, right? And then if you look further into the gallery, you have also more pictures, right? So it's not the only image. So when you click further, you can see that they have different placements. So you have a bedroom, so they have different positions for bedrooms, like position 1 and 19. So which one do you think looks better? So 1 or 19? 19. Okay, if you go further, we have also like reception, right? So which one do you think looks better, 3 or 17? Yeah. So we all agree that, you know, that like you want better images earlier, right? Because it's the same thing when you go into having a certain user experience, right? You want to have things looks better first. And then we built, of course, we built this a model to recognize aesthetic. So aesthetic is a very subjective problem, right? So it's not easy to understand also for humans. And basically what we did is we took a public data set, we trained a model that can recognize aesthetic, and this is kind of like the first output of the model. So as you can see, the model is actually doing a quite good job, but I don't know if it's too small, but the discrimination power is not very high, right? So the numbers are not really good. So if you go further, for example, for this case, the first image is, in my case, not particularly the best, but also the first image is not the best. But this is the case because when you train a deep learning model, like on a public data set, the public data set is biased, right? So, you know, it was taken from a photo community, and the photo community may say, hey, we really like bathrooms, right, or restrooms, right? So this is the case. And then afterwards, okay, this is another example. Afterwards, we decided that, hey, we need to label our own data, right? So this was one of the key learnings that we had, that you, of course, you can like jumpstart your AI project with public data and very simple, but then, you know, the hard part is actually to label your own data, right? So you need a label strategy where you know, gather people, you know, have kind of a domain knowledge, and then basically we built an application, and then over 1 week we labeled like 2,000 images. And this is the output from earlier as well, but now you can see that the discrimination is much higher, right? So the first.
So you labeled 2,000 photos of these whatever millions.
Yes,
there were.
12
not
people.
So many.
12 people. So not so many. This is really good. So not so many. And if you go to the next example, that is actually quite amazing now, right? So you have this guy before, and now you have this very nice bedroom. And this is pretty cool because now, you know, we can do it automatically, right? Because instead of like sorting it by hand, right, which we didn't do before, you have a machine that is doing this for you.
Okay, but so, I mean, that is an impressive data set. So maybe not everybody here has 30 million photos that they can order easily and then figure out that it's a bedroom. No. What do you feel is like, how much data would be enough, or how should people start with that, or when should people start?
I mean, you shouldn't start with when you have only 100 data points or 1,000 data points or 10,000 data points, because if you have 10,000 data points, you still have like a human who could do it for you, like for a very small price, right? I think machine learning or AI particularly only makes sense if you need to scale, right? So for example, if you have 500,000, or even 100,000, 500,000, you know, 1 million and above, right, where you need to solve a certain problem. And then, of course, you don't need to label all the 100 million images or whatever, but you just to label like 10,000, you know, you should start with 10,000, then you go on to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. So it's a very iterative approach, right, that you basically, you know, like doing experiments. It's the same thing when you're thinking about like A/B testing or from a product experimentation, right? So you always start with a small experiments to test your hypothesis, right? And then you go further and further, basically, to test your problem and see if it works or not.
So you really think the iteration is the part that is really crucial and really trying to find out where you want to get and see how you can iterate on that data? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, the problem I see in most of the German corporations, even at our Axel Springer, there's a lot of talks, right? So we start to talk about, okay, how much data do we need, what kind of infrastructure, what kind of resources, and then it's already 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks where you actually could do the experiments, and having someone sit there, work with the data, try it out, right, and see where it goes, right? And then they always end up in discussion like, okay, how much do we need? Is it cost intensive, or is it going to fail?
But okay, so most of these companies don't have a 5-people research staff at the head office. So how do you think they should start? If they figure out, okay, I had my data scientist guy look through data and we have an idea and we have a lot of it and it's too much for the 5-people team. Are there open source tools out there that they could use, or should they just use the AWS deep learning methodology? I know of people that send their registration data over to AWS and then get like feedback out there. How should people start? Because the title of the show was like, in 12 weeks you're done.
I mean, from a product perspective, it always makes sense to start with out-of-the-shelf services, right? So, for example, you can go in AWS, you can use Google ML, you can use the Azure cognitive services as well. But the problem with these services, they are very general, right? So it means, for example, if you have a very nice idea, like, and you need kind of, object detection. Of course, with this object detection, you are able to recognize cats and dogs or anything else. But for example, if we need to detect like scratches on a car for insurance, or fruits or something like this, right? It might be difficult because you need to fine-tune these models. And so if you look at like big corporation who are actually AI-driven companies, none of these companies are actually buying in stuff, right? So if you look at Google or Twitter, Facebook, right, even probably Airbnb as well, right? So I don't believe that these companies, are actually buying in machine learning services.
Mm-hmm. So what would the first hire be then for these people? Who should build that?
Who are you first to hire? I think in Germany it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem, right? So actually, I always recommend, of course, companies when they want to start the AI journey to hire like someone good, like someone who's like can define like the area, right? Who knows what it is? Because I have a diverse background. Because when I work at Pivotal, I used to work a lot with product people, right? I know how they think. I know how designers think, right? I know how software engineers, because I am a software engineer. I can do this stuff, right? But the thing is, having someone like this coming from this background is very, very limited. That's why it's very hard to find the right talent, because a lot of head of AI and a big corporation, they used to be like advanced analytics people, or maybe they wrote about this stuff in a strategy paper, right? And now they're suddenly becoming like head of whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But this is a problem for any position, right? It's always finding the right key talent who can drive this stuff, right? And this is something that where here we in Germany, we are still not mature enough. That's why, like, when you think about AI products, like, or having AI into products, is still not very mature, right? Because we are still not there.
Okay.
My question is, how do you show the monetary value? Like, do you have any processes? Because it's quite relatively expensive, I'd say, the investment. And so how do you go about justifying the cost or justifying, the outcomes from all the work you're doing? It sounds obvious, but, it's good to get the value.
I mean, for this case, it was trivial because it's more like a operationalization cost thing, right? So literally, you're looking at how much would we need for like humans to do this, right? And then if a machine is doing this within seconds and minutes, and you just need a team to work on that for 3 months, you're going to offset that, right? So that's a very trivial calculation that you would like to do. Of course, there are also stuff when you can think about that machine learning is also touching the profit side. For example, when you're doing recommendation engines, right? So if you, for example, have like an upsell of certain things, and we do this calculation actually before every project, like we do. That's because usually when I start a project, I usually want to do like a scoping session. In a scoping session, there's one point where you have like business goals. You have business goals, product goals, and engagement goals. Like the learning goals that you want to have over this certain project, like 3 months. Because I'm working accordingly to the build, measure, learn principle. And in this principle, I want to test at the end of the project, did we kind of like achieve that, right? And in the business KPIs, you can define, I always look, how is it touching the cost side? How is it actually touching the profit side, right? to justify the project at the end of the day. This is, by the way, how it looks like in production now.
Yeah, that's why I said, okay, I think I need to do the next slide.
Yeah.
So it looks a lot better than at the beginning.
Yeah. The good thing is, if you look at this, I only filtered out the 1, 3, 2, and 3 stars. So because if you look at big hotel chains like 5-star hotels, they usually have professional photographers, right, who actually do all the sortings for you. So we're actually helping our small and medium hotels to do this. We're helping them to generate more businesses, right? And if they are happy, we are happy.
Any interesting AI projects you see out there? Or you see at Axel Springer currently developing that you can talk about?
Yeah. So one thing that we are currently working on, it's a very early stage, is like we really love voice. We believe that voice will be a very interesting topic for us. So especially in 2020, because you know, in the past people always use their phone and texting, or and they use their hands, right? But when you sit in a car, or or in the future, voice could be another interaction point. So we're working a lot of like how we can actually leverage voice to make a better product for us.
Okay, interesting. Cool, and I think that's already it from our end.
So thank you very much. Applause for Oliver and Dat.